Imagine waking up tomorrow morning to a sound you've never heard before. Not sirens, not traffic, not the distant hum of airplanes crossing the sky. Just a strange silence, broken occasionally by a scream somewhere far away in the city. You reach for your phone. No notifications, no signal. The internet is gone. The television shows only static. At first it feels like a power outage, a technical glitch, something temporary. But then you hear the knocking. Slow, irregular. Not the kind of knock someone makes when they expect the door to open. It's heavier than that. More desperate, almost mechanical. By the time you realize what is happening, the world you knew yesterday has already disappeared. Zombie apocalypses are usually imagined as chaotic explosions of horror. Cities burning overnight, military jets screaming across the sky. But the reality of a global collapse would be far quieter and far stranger. It wouldn't begin with panic. It would begin with confusion, because the human brain is designed to reject impossible information. When the first reports appear online about violent attacks, most people assume it's a hoax. Videos circulate showing people biting strangers, refusing to stop even after being shot. Experts argue. Governments release statements urging calm. In the first 12 hours, the infection spreads faster than anyone realizes. Hospitals become the first epicenters. Emergency rooms fill with patients suffering from extreme aggression. Doctors try to restrain them, understand what they are seeing. Patients die. And then, minutes later, their bodies begin to move again. Slowly at first, then violently. And by the time the hospital staff understands, it is already too late. The infection has moved from the wards to the streets. For the average citizen, the first day still feels surreal. Stores remain open. Buses still run. People go to work because that is what routine tells them. But beneath the surface, the city's systems are beginning to fail. Police lines are overwhelmed by calls reporting assaults that don't make sense. Victims continue attacking even after severe injuries. Officers respond expecting criminals. Instead, they find something closer to predators. The problem isn't just violence, it's persistence. A normal criminal fears pain. These things keep moving. They don't negotiate. They don't feel fear. By the end of the first 24 hours, the infection has achieved exponential growth. Every infected person creates several more. Subways become traps, elevators become cages, apartment buildings become vertical labyrinths where screams echo from floor to floor. Authorities attempt containment zones, but containment assumes that the infected behave rationally. Zombies don't respect barricades. Electricity begins to flicker. Power plants require operators. When workers stop showing up, the grid becomes unstable. Blackouts spread like falling dominoes. Without power, communication collapses. The internet goes dark. Suddenly, millions of people are trapped inside a crisis they can no longer understand. Day 2 is when society begins to fracture. Food disappears from grocery stores within hours. Water pressure drops as pumping stations shut down. Gas stations close because electronic payment systems no longer function. Money becomes meaningless almost overnight. But the greatest threat isn't the zombies. It's the realization spreading through the population that the rules of civilization no longer apply. For centuries, cities functioned because of a shared agreement, the social contract. But when emergency services stop responding, that agreement evaporates. Panic doesn't arrive all at once. It spreads like a second infection. Meanwhile, the infected continue to multiply. The terrifying truth about zombies is not their strength. It's their simplicity. They have only one objective: find the living. Humans, on the other hand, must think about food, sleep, fear, and family. Every decision costs energy. Zombies never hesitate. They never doubt. And in a prolonged collapse, that difference becomes deadly. By the 48-hour mark, cities transform into hunting grounds. Streets once filled with commuters become silent corridors littered with abandoned vehicles. Windows shatter as desperate survivors search for supplies. Fires burn unattended. Smoke rises above the skyline like warning signals. Military forces attempt to intervene. Helicopters patrol the skies. Armored vehicles move through urban streets, but even armies rely on supply chains. If communication networks collapse, coordination disappears. Units become isolated islands of defense. And history shows us something unsettling. Armies are powerful against organized enemies, but pandemics follow different rules. By the third day, 72 hours after the first outbreak, the transformation of the city is complete. Survivors retreat into hiding. Apartment doors are barricaded. Lights remain off to avoid drawing attention. Every sound becomes dangerous. A dropped object, a slammed door, even a whisper echoing through an empty hallway. Hunger begins to replace shock. Fear sharpens into calculation. People realize survival depends on skills most never learned. How to purify water, how to move quietly. Civilization once provided these things automatically. Now every necessity must be fought for. The most chilling realization comes slowly. Zombies are not the true apocalypse. They are only the trigger. The real collapse is the disappearance of the systems that once kept millions of people alive. Electricity, sanitation, logistics, law. Remove those pillars, and the city becomes something entirely different. An environment humans were never meant to inhabit. And somewhere in the darkness of that broken city, the question changes. How long can you survive when the world stops being human? Because in a zombie apocalypse, the most dangerous moment isn't the first bite. It's the moment you realize you are completely on your own.